The auction house reeked of desperation and old money. Serafina Voss pressed deeper into the shadows near the back wall, her violet eyes scanning the crowd as her fingers instinctively touched the iron pendant hidden beneath her threadbare cloak. The charm had protected her for over 2 decades. Tonight, she prayed it would hold for a few hours more. Lot 47, the auctioneer announced, his voice cutting through the murmur of the crowd. A specimen of particular interest to those seeking exotic servants. The crowd parted as guards dragged a figure onto the raised platform. Serafina's breath caught in her throat. The man was enormous, easily towering over the guards who struggled to control him despite the silver chains wrapped around his wrists and ankles. His dark hair fell in tangled waves past his shoulders, and even from this distance, she could see the wounds crisscrossing his bare torso. Fresh blood mingled with old scars, but it was his eyes that stopped her heart. Even through the haze of pain and fury, they burned like molten amber, sweeping across the crowd with predatory assessment. Those were not the eyes of a common wolf shifter. "Mama, who is he?" Talia tugged at Serafina's sleeve, her 7-year-old curiosity overpowering her fear. "Hush, little star," Serafina whispered, pulling her daughter closer. They should not be here. She had only come to the city of Valdrin to sell her healing herbs, but the crowd had swept them along, and now they stood trapped against the wall of the most notorious supernatural auction house in the 5 kingdoms. Captured during the border raids, the auctioneer continued with theatrical flair. This one killed 17 of the king's soldiers before they brought him down. Pure-blooded shifter stock, strong as 10 men, perfect for the mines, the fighting pits, or other entertainments. Laughter rippled through the crowd. A young noble tossed a copper coin at the platform, where it clattered against the prisoner's chains. Another threw a rotted apple that struck his shoulder. He did not flinch, did not react at all. His burning gaze continued its sweep until suddenly, impossibly, it locked onto Serafina. The world narrowed to those amber eyes. Serafina felt her iron pendant grow hot against her chest, searing through the fabric of her dress. The prisoner's nostrils flared. His expression shifted from cold fury to something far more dangerous. Recognition. No, that was impossible. The charm had never failed, not once in all her life. "We begin at 50 gold sovereigns," the auctioneer called out. "Do I hear 50? 60, called a fat merchant from the front row. "I could use fresh blood in my fighting stable." 70, countered a woman draped in silk and cruelty. "My kennels have been so dull lately." The prisoner's lips curled back, revealing elongated canines. A warning growl rumbled through the auction house, and several bidders stepped back involuntarily. But the guards yanked his silver chains, and the growl became a grunt of pain as the blessed metal burned his flesh. "Control that beast!" the silk woman shrieked. A guard raised a silver-tipped whip. Serafina watched in horror as it descended toward the prisoner's already ravaged back. Without thinking, she pushed forward through the crowd. 100 gold sovereigns! Her voice rang out clear and strong, shocking even herself. The auction house fell silent. Every eye turned to the shabby woman in the worn cloak, who had just bid a fortune she could not possibly possess. The auctioneer recovered first. 100 sovereigns from the lady in the back. Do I hear 110? Silence. The other bidders exchanged glances. 100 gold for a rebellious shifter who would likely try to kill his owner at the first opportunity? Only a fool would pay such a price. Going once, going twice. The auctioneer's hammer fell with a crack that echoed through the chamber. Sold to the mysterious lady for 100 gold sovereigns. Only then did Serafina realize what she had done. She had exactly 12 copper pennies to her name. 12 copper pennies, a 7-year-old daughter and apparently a purchased wolf shifter who was staring at her as if she were either his salvation or his doom. "Mama," Talia whispered, "you do not have 100 gold." "I know, little star. I know." The guards were already approaching to escort her to the payment chamber, where her deception would be discovered and her fate sealed. In Valdrin, failing to pay auction debts was punishable by indentured servitude. She and Talia would become the very things she had tried to save the stranger from. But then a new voice cut through the chaos. Cold, cultured, and terrifyingly familiar. "The debt will be paid." Lord Cassius Morn emerged from the crowd like a serpent from tall grass. His pale eyes found Seraphina, and his thin lips stretched into a smile that held no warmth. "After all," he continued, "I cannot allow my late brother's widow to embarrass herself in public. Consider it a family courtesy." Seraphina's blood turned to ice. Cassius, her dead husband's brother, the man who had made her life a living nightmare for the past 3 years. The man who had sworn to own her one way or another. How generous, she managed through numb lips. "I expect you to visit the estate tomorrow to discuss repayment terms." His gaze dropped meaningfully to Talia before returning to Seraphina's face. "Both of you." The threat was clear. Seraphina had just traded one catastrophe for another. And standing on that platform, still bound in silver chains, the amber-eyed stranger watched it all unfold, with an intensity that made her certain this night was far from over. The walk from the auction house to Cassius's carriage felt like a death march. Seraphina kept Talia pressed close to her side, hyper-aware of the guards escorting them and the shuffling footsteps of the chained prisoner behind. "You will ride with me," Cassius instructed as they reached the gilded carriage. "The beast can travel in the supply wagon with the other livestock." "No." The word escaped before Seraphina could stop it. Cassius's pale eyes narrowed dangerously. "I beg your pardon?" "He is injured." Seraphina forced her voice to remain steady. "The supply wagon will kill him before we reach the estate. I am a healer. Let me tend to his wounds during the journey, and you will have a living servant rather than a corpse." For a long moment, Cassius simply stared at her. Then he laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Always the bleeding heart, Seraphina. Very well. You may ride with your purchase, but Talia stays with me." "Mama." Talia's small hand tightened around hers. "It will be all right, little star." Seraphina knelt to meet her daughter's frightened eyes. "Lord Morn just wants to talk. I will see you when we arrive. Be brave." She kissed Talia's forehead and forced herself to let go, watching as Cassius helped her daughter into the gilded carriage with exaggerated courtesy. The door closed, hiding Talia from view, and Seraphina felt as though a piece of her soul had been carved away. The guards shoved the prisoner into a covered wagon meant for transporting goods. Seraphina climbed in after him, ignoring the driver's muttered warnings about savage beasts and foolish women. Inside, darkness pressed close. She could hear the prisoner's labored breathing, could smell blood and silver burns. As the wagon lurched into motion, she fumbled for the small pouch of healing supplies she always carried. "I am going to help you," she said quietly. "I know you probably cannot understand me, but I mean you no harm." A low chuckle emerged from the darkness. Then a voice, deep and rough, speaking perfect common tongue. "I understand you perfectly, little healer. What I do not understand is why you would spend a fortune you clearly do not have on a stranger condemned to die." Seraphina's hands stilled on her pouch. "You speak the common tongue. Among other languages, answer my question." She swallowed hard. Why had she bid? The moment the whip had risen, something inside her had simply snapped. "Because it was wrong," she finally said. "What they were doing to you was wrong." Silence stretched between them. Then the prisoner shifted, and she heard the clink of silver chains. You have put yourself and your daughter in grave danger for a moral principle. Either you are the most foolish woman in the 5 kingdoms, or there is something else driving you. His voice dropped lower. Something you are hiding. Seraphina's hand flew to the iron pendant beneath her dress. I do not know what you mean. Yes, you do. Movement in the darkness, and suddenly he was much closer. Close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his wounded body, could smell the copper tang of blood beneath the acrid burn of silver. I could smell it in the auction house. Beneath that charm you wear, beneath the human scent you project to the world. Something ancient, something powerful. His breath ghosted across her cheek, warm and dangerous. Something like me. Seraphina's heart hammered against her ribs. She should be afraid. Every instinct told her to pull away, to put distance between herself and this wounded predator. But something deeper, something she could not name, made her stay perfectly still. You are mistaken. I am just a healer. A human healer. Lies. The word was almost gentle. Your charm is failing, little healer. Whatever magic has hidden you all these years, it grows weaker by the hour. Soon, everyone will know what you truly are. And then, you will need protection far more than I do. Before she could respond, the wagon jolted to a sudden stop. Shouts erupted outside, followed by the clash of steel. Bandits! The driver screamed. Road bandits! Seraphina lurched toward the wagon's back opening, her only thought of Talia in that gilded carriage, but a large hand caught her wrist, holding her in place with impossible strength despite the silver chains. Wait, the prisoner commanded. Listen. She forced herself to stop struggling, and then she heard it. Beneath the sounds of fighting, beneath the screams of dying men, another sound. A howl, rising into the night sky. Then another, and another. Those are not bandits, the prisoner said grimly. Those are my people, and they have come to take me home. The wagon's canvas covering was ripped away, flooding the interior with moonlight. Seraphina found herself staring up at a circle of wolves. Massive, silver-furred creatures with intelligent eyes that gleamed in the darkness. Behind them, the bodies of Cassius's guards lay scattered across the road like broken dolls. Talia! She tried to push past the prisoner, but he held her firm. Your daughter is unharmed. His voice was calm, authoritative. My wolves do not kill children or innocents. My wolves. The words echoed in her mind. Not his pack, his wolves. As if he commanded them all. One of the wolves stepped forward and began to shimmer. Fur receded, bones cracked and reformed, and suddenly a naked man stood in its place. He was young, perhaps 20, with the same burning gaze as the prisoner. My king. The young man dropped to one knee, his head bowed. We feared we had lost you. King. The word echoed through Seraphina's mind, refusing to settle into anything resembling sense. She had purchased a king, at a common auction. For 100 gold she did not possess. Her knees went weak. She had argued with him about riding in the wagon. She had demanded to heal him as if he were some stray animal she had found in a ditch. And all along, he had been the alpha king of the wolf shifters, ruler of the most powerful supernatural nation in the north. Fennec. The prisoner, no, the king, stepped down from the wagon. Remove these chains. We have much to discuss. At once, Your Majesty. The young wolf produced a key and began working at the silver shackles. Lord Cassius has fled on horseback. Should we pursue? Let him run. The king's voice held cold promise. We will deal with the Morn family soon enough. Seraphina scrambled from the wagon and ran toward the gilded carriage where she could hear Talia crying. The carriage door hung open, and her daughter sat huddled inside, unharmed but terrified. Serafina gathered Talia into her arms, whispering soothing nonsense as the little girl sobbed against her chest. "Mama, the wolves, they ate the soldiers." "Shh, little star, you are safe now. No one will hurt you." "Will they eat us too?" "No." The voice came from behind them, deep and certain. Serafina turned to find the king standing a few feet away, watching them with an unreadable expression. "You have nothing to fear from my people, little one. Your mother saved my life tonight. That debt will be honored." Talia peeked out from Serafina's arms. "You are the man from the stage, the one Mama bought." The king's lips twitched. "So I am." "You are a wolf?" "I am." "A king wolf?" "Yes." He crouched down to Talia's level. "My name is Kalen Thornwood, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. And you are?" "Talia. I am 7. "A pleasure to meet you, Lady Talia." Kalen inclined his head with genuine courtesy. Then his golden gaze lifted to Serafina. "And your mother's name?" "Serafina," she finally said. "Serafina Voss." Something flickered in his expression. Recognition? Surprise? It vanished before she could identify it. "Serafina," he repeated, and somehow her name sounded different in his voice, heavier, more significant. "You cannot return to your home tonight. Cassius Morn will have men waiting. You and your daughter will come with us to the Northern Territories until we can ensure your safety." "It is not a request," Kalen added, his tone brooking no argument. "You saved an Alpha King from the auction block. That makes you either the bravest woman in the 5 kingdoms or the most dangerous. Either way, I intend to keep you close until I determine which." Before Serafina could respond, a searing pain lanced through her chest. She gasped, clutching at her iron pendant as it grew unbearably hot against her skin. "Mama!" Talia cried out. Kalen moved with supernatural speed, catching Serafina before she fell. His hands burned where they touched her. Everything was fire and agony and the overwhelming scent of pine forests and wild storms. "The charm," she managed through gritted teeth. "Something is wrong with the charm." Kalen's eyes widened as he looked down at her. "Your scent. It is changing. It is—" He inhaled sharply, and when he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "Impossible. What is happening to me? I do not know." But the way he stared at her suggested he knew far more than he was admitting. "But we need to get you to our healers, now." He lifted her effortlessly into his arms. "Fennec, take the child. We run north. Full speed. Do not stop for anything." "But she is human," Fennec protested. "She cannot survive a full-speed run." "She is not human." Kalen's voice cut through the night like a blade. "Not entirely. Not anymore. Now run." And then they were moving, racing through the darkness faster than any horse could gallop. Serafina clung to Kalen as the world blurred around them, as the iron pendant burned against her chest, and as the life she had carefully constructed crumbled into ash. Serafina woke to candlelight and the smell of sage burning somewhere nearby. She lay on a bed softer than any she had ever known, covered in furs that seemed to pulse with warmth. "Talia." She sat up abruptly, instantly regretting it as pain lanced through her skull. "Your daughter is safe." A woman's voice, gentle but firm. Serafina turned to find an elderly woman seated beside the bed, her silver hair braided with small bones and feathers. "She sleeps in the next chamber. I am Alara Moonvein, the pack's elder healer. And you, child, are something I have not seen in a very long time." Serafina's hand flew to her chest where the iron pendant should have been. Her fingers found only bare skin. "Looking for this?" Alara held up the pendant, or what remained of it. The iron had been warped and blackened, twisted into an unrecognizable shape. It nearly killed you, burning from the inside out. The king himself tore it from your throat when we arrived. No. Seraphina reached for the ruined charm with trembling fingers. No, 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 you do not understand. I need that. Without it, they will find me. Who will find you, child? I do not know, she finally admitted. My mother gave me that pendant when I was a baby. She told me to never remove it, that it was the only thing keeping me hidden from those who would destroy me. She died before she could explain more. Ilara nodded slowly. Child, that charm was not merely hiding you from enemies. It was suppressing your true nature, binding your wolf spirit so completely that even you did not know it existed. That is impossible. I am human. I have always been human. No. Ilara's voice was gentle but unyielding. You are something far rarer, something that was supposed to have vanished from this world centuries ago. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words carried the weight of prophecy. You are a pure-blooded royal wolf, a daughter of the first pack. Seraphina stared at her. You are mad. Perhaps. Ilara rose and moved toward the chamber door. But the proof stands outside this room, waiting to speak with you. He has not moved since he carried you here. 3 days of pacing that corridor like a caged beast. 3 days. Seraphina threw off the furs and tried to stand. Her legs buckled immediately, and she caught herself on the bedpost. I have been unconscious for 3 days? Your body is adjusting to the change. 2 decades of suppression does not undo itself overnight. Ilara opened the door and stepped aside. He can explain better than I. Kaelin entered the chamber, dressed now in black leather and silver clasps that marked his royal status. But it was his expression that arrested her. Raw, vulnerable, utterly at odds with the commanding king she had glimpsed on the road. Leave us, he said to Ilara without taking his eyes from Seraphina. The elder healer departed silently, closing the door behind her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Seraphina clutched the bedpost, acutely aware of her thin sleeping shift and bare feet. Kaelin stood by the door, his hands clenched at his sides as if physically restraining himself from moving closer. Is it true? She finally asked. What she said about me? Yes. His voice was rough, strained with emotion he was clearly struggling to contain. The moment your charm failed in that wagon, I knew. Your scent is unlike anything I have ever encountered. Pure, ancient, like the very first wolves that walked this earth. But how? My mother was human. She must have been human. She may have appeared human. That charm was ancient magic, older than any pack currently alive. It did not just hide your scent. It transformed it completely, made you appear as something you were not. Kaelin took a step closer, then stopped himself, his hands clenching at his sides. Seraphina, do you know what it means to be a daughter of the first pack? She shook her head, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. It means you are royalty, he said quietly. True royalty. Not like me, not like any of the current pack kings. You are pure, undiluted, the last living heir to the original wolf throne, a throne that has sat empty for 300 years because there was no one with the blood to claim it. He reached out, and his fingertips brushed her cheek with devastating gentleness. Until now. Before Seraphina could respond, pain exploded through her body. Not like before, not the burning of the charm. This was deeper, primal, as if something inside her was clawing to get out. She screamed, collapsing against Kaelin's chest as her bones began to crack and reform. Through the agony, she heard him shouting for Ilara, felt his arms wrap around her as if he could hold her together through sheer force of will. Fight it, he commanded. Seraphina, Listen to me. You cannot shift yet. Your body is not ready. You have to fight it. But she could not fight. There was only pain and pressure and the overwhelming sensation of something ancient waking up inside her, something that had been caged for over 2 decades and would not be denied a moment longer. The last thing she heard before consciousness fled was Kaylin's voice, no longer commanding but desperate. "Do not leave me," he whispered against her hair. "Not when I have just found you." The days that followed blurred together in a haze of fever and fractured dreams. Serafina would surface briefly into consciousness, catching glimpses of worried faces and hearing hushed voices before the darkness pulled her under again. In her dreams, she ran through endless forests on 4 legs, her paws silent against the moss-covered earth. A massive black wolf ran beside her, his eyes glowing in the moonlight. She knew him without knowing how, recognized him in the marrow of her bones. "Mama?" Talia's voice pulled her toward wakefulness. Serafina forced her eyes open, blinking against the soft morning light. "Little star, how long have I been asleep?" "7 days since the violent awakening began," came Alara's voice from across the chamber. "The longest anyone has survived such a transformation attempt." After Talia left to find Fennec, Alara settled into the chair beside the bed. "What do you know of mate bonds, child?" "I know they are sacred among wolf shifters, that a wolf recognizes their destined mate by scent." "And do you know what happens when a wolf finds their true mate? Their fated one?" Serafina shook her head slowly, though her heart had begun to race. "They become bound," Alara said quietly. "Soul to soul. The bond begins the moment their true scents touch for the first time. It cannot be broken, cannot be denied. To be separated from one's true mate is a pain worse than death itself." The implications crashed over Serafina like a wave. The auction house, her charm failing, Kaylin's eyes locking onto hers across that crowded room. "No," she whispered. "That is not possible. I was married. I had a husband." "You had a human arrangement," Alara corrected gently. "Made while your wolf was imprisoned. But your wolf did not choose that man. Your wolf chose Kaylin." "Does he know?" she asked through trembling lips. "About the bond?" "The king knew the moment he scented you in that auction house. Why do you think he let himself be captured? He could have escaped those chains at any point. He stayed because his wolf refused to leave you." The door burst open. Fennec stood in the doorway, his face pale with alarm. "Lord Cassius Morn has arrived at the border with an army. He carries a royal warrant from the human king demanding the return of Lady Voss and her daughter. And he has brought wolf hunters with moonsilver weapons." "Moonsilver," Alara hissed. "The forbidden metal. It can kill even an alpha with a single cut." Serafina was already moving toward the door. She made it 3 steps before her legs gave out. Strong arms caught her before she hit the stone floor, and suddenly Kaylin was there, his eyes blazing with barely contained fury. "You will go nowhere," he commanded, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. "Cassius Morn will not touch you. Not while I breathe. He has moonsilver weapons. He will kill you. Then I will die protecting what is mine." His voice dropped to a fierce whisper, raw with an intensity that made her breath catch. "And you are mine, Serafina. Whether you accept it yet or not. My wolf claimed you the moment your scent touched his soul. I have waited 300 years for you, though I did not know it until that night in the auction house. I will burn the entire human kingdom to ash before I let anyone take you from me." The words ignited something primal in her chest, something that howled in fierce agreement. "Then let me help you fight," she breathed. "Teach me how to be what I am supposed to be." A horn sounded in the distance, then another. The attack had begun. The sacred grove stood at the heart of the Northern Territories, ancient trees forming a natural cathedral around a pool of water so still it reflected the stars like a mirror. Seraphina stood at its edge, dressed in a simple white shift, her bare feet pressing into cool moss. "This is where our people have awakened for 1,000 generations," Ilara explained. "Enter the pool. Let the water cover you completely, then let go. Stop fighting the change. Your wolf has been caged for over 2 decades. She is angry, frightened, and desperate to be free. You must trust her." In the distance, Seraphina could hear the sounds of battle, howls and screams and the clash of steel. Kaelin had wanted to stay with her, had argued violently against leaving her side, but his pack needed their alpha. "And if she destroys me instead? Then you were never meant to survive." Ilara's voice was not unkind, merely honest. "But I do not believe that is your fate. There is too much fire in you, child. Too much to fight for." Seraphina thought of Talia, hidden in the inner keep with the other children. Thought of Kaelin riding into battle against moon-silver weapons. Thought of Cassius, who had made her life a misery for 3 years and would do far worse if he got his hands on her daughter. She stepped into the pool. The water was warm, impossibly warm for a forest pool in the northern mountains. It welcomed her like an embrace. When it reached her chin, Seraphina took one last breath and let herself sink beneath the surface. Darkness, silence, the muffled thunder of her own heartbeat. And then, from somewhere deep inside her, a voice. Not words exactly, but feelings, instincts that had been buried so long she had forgotten they existed. "Let me out." She let go. Pain erupted through every nerve, every cell, and every fiber of her being. Her bones shattered and reformed, her skin split and knit back together. Her senses exploded outward until she could hear the heartbeat of a mouse in the underbrush, smell the blood being spilled miles away at the border, taste the fear and fury of wolves fighting for their lives. And through it all, a presence rose within her, ancient, powerful, utterly furious at having been caged for so long. "Mine," the wolf snarled. "This body is mine. This life is mine. And our mate is in danger." Seraphina broke the surface of the pool with a howl that shook the ancient trees. Sound that had not been heard in 300 years. The howl of a pure-blooded royal wolf. Ilara fell to her knees at the edge of the pool, tears streaming down her face. The prophecy is true. The queen of all wolves has returned. Seraphina looked down at herself and saw white fur where skin had been, 4 powerful legs where 2 human limbs had stood. She was massive, larger than any wolf she had seen in the pack, her coat gleaming like fresh snow in the moonlight. Her new senses sang with information, with scents and sounds she had never known existed. And burning in her chest was the bond, the golden thread connecting her soul to Kaelin's. Through it, she felt his pain, his fear. Moon-silver poison spreading through his veins. No. The word was not hers alone. It belonged to the wolf too. They would not let their mate die. Seraphina launched herself from the pool and ran. Faster than she had ever moved in human form. Faster than should have been possible even for a wolf. The forest blurred around her, trees parting as if making way for their queen. Behind her she heard Ilara calling out, heard other wolves joining the chase. But she did not slow, could not slow. Every instinct screamed at her to reach Kaelin before it was too late. The sounds of battle grew louder. She could smell blood now, wolf blood and human blood mingling in the night air. Could hear the screams of the dying and the clash of moon-silver against claw. And there, at the center of the chaos, she saw him. At the center of the battlefield, Kaelin fought in his wolf form, a massive black beast. 3 moonsilver arrows protruded from his flank, and his movements had grown sluggish. A ring of wolf hunters surrounded him, their blessed blades raised for the killing blow. And standing behind them, a satisfied smile on his pale face, was Cassius Morn. "Finish him," Cassius commanded. "The Alpha dies tonight." Seraphina did not think, did not plan. She simply acted. Seraphina burst from the tree line like an avalanche of white fury, and every wolf on the battlefield froze, because it was not just her presence that stopped them. It was what appeared above her head as she entered the clearing. A crown of pure golden light, hovering inches above her fur, pulsing with ancient power that made the very air tremble. The crown of the first pack. The symbol of the true ruler of all wolves. A legend made real. "What in the name of all hells?" Cassius breathed, his face draining of color. Seraphina's wolf surged forward with a roar that shook the mountains themselves. The hunters scattered like leaves before a storm, and the crown above her head blazed brighter still, its light searing into the eyes of every human who dared to look upon it. She reached Kalen's side and placed herself between him and his enemies, her white fur bristling, her golden wolf eyes promising death to any who approached. Through the bond, she felt his shock, his wonder, his overwhelming love crashing against her consciousness like waves against the shore. "You came," his wolf whispered into her mind. "You came for me." "Always," she answered. "Now and forever. My king, my mate." The battle had ended the moment the crown appeared. The wolf hunters had fled in terror, their moon-silver weapons abandoned in the mud. Even Cassius, for all his cruelty and ambition, had recognized when he was outmatched. He had retreated with the remnants of his army, his threats of retribution echoing hollowly in the night. But victory had come at a cost. Seraphina knelt beside Kalen in the great hall, watching Alara work desperately to extract the moonsilver from his wounds. In human form, the extent of his injuries was terrifyingly clear. "The poison has spread too far," Alara said. "Even an alpha's healing cannot overcome this much moonsilver." "There is one way," Fenix said from the doorway. "The old texts speak of a mate's claiming bite, given at the moment between life and death that can sometimes pull a wolf back from the edge." Through their connection, Seraphina could feel Kalen slipping away, his consciousness dimming like a candle guttering in the wind. "What do I do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her heart. "Bite him where the neck meets the shoulder. Pour everything you have into the bond. If the old tales are true, it will anchor his soul to yours. Give him something to hold on to while his body fights the poison. And if the tales are wrong, then you will feel him die through the bond. Many mates do not survive that pain." Seraphina did not hesitate. She had spent her whole life hiding from who she truly was. "No more. I am not losing you," she whispered against Kalen's forehead. "Not when I have just found myself." She let the shift take her. The crown flickered into existence above her head. She lowered her muzzle to his throat and bit down with every ounce of power the first pack blood had given her. The bond exploded. Their souls tangled together so completely she could not tell where she ended and he began. She felt his pain, the moon-silver burning through his veins, felt his despair as his body began to fail, felt his desperate, aching love for her, a love that had been born the moment their eyes met across that auction house and had only grown stronger with every passing day. "Stay with me," she commanded through the bond. "Fight. I did not survive all those years of hiding to lose you now. Too tired, too much poison. Then take my strength." The crown blazed brighter, its light pouring into him. "All of it. Everything I have. Everything I am." The world went white. When Seraphina opened her eyes, she was lying on the cold stone floor, human again, every muscle screaming in protest. But Kalen was breathing. His pulse beat strong and sure beneath her trembling fingers. Impossible, Alara breathed. The poison is completely gone. Kalen's eyes fluttered open, amber meeting violet in the firelight. You bit me, he said, his voice rough but warm with wonder. You are dying. And you saved me. He reached up to touch her face with heartbreaking gentleness. My queen, my mate, my heart. She kissed him then, a seal upon the vow, a promise written in the language of souls. And when they broke apart, breathless and trembling, the entire pack had gathered in the great hall, every wolf on bended knee. The claiming is complete, Alara announced, her voice ringing with authority. The crown of the first pack has chosen its queen. All hail Seraphina Thornwood, queen of all wolves. All hail Kalen Thornwood, her king and eternal mate. The howl that rose shook the rafters and echoed across the mountains. A sound of joy, of triumph, of a prophecy fulfilled. Talia burst through the crowd and threw herself into Seraphina's arms. Kalen's arm came around them both, pulling them close, creating a circle of warmth and safety that felt like everything Seraphina had ever wanted, but never dared to hope for. Is it over? Talia asked, looking between them with wide eyes. Are we safe now? Seraphina met Kalen's gaze over their daughter's head. His. Theirs. The word settled into her heart like it belonged there. We are together, she said softly. And as long as we are together, we will always be safe. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. But even as peace settled over the great hall, Seraphina knew this was not the end. Cassius had fled. War was still coming. Yet for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she belonged. 3 months had passed since the claiming. Wolf packs from across the 5 kingdoms had begun making pilgrimages to the northern keep, pledging allegiance to the true crown. Seraphina stood on the balcony of the royal chambers, her hand resting on the gentle swell of her belly. A secret she had shared with no one except Kalen and Alara. You should be resting. Kalen's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin coming to rest on her shoulder. Alara fusses too much. But Seraphina leaned back into his warmth, savoring the steady thrum of their connection. A knock at the chamber door interrupted them. Fennec entered, his young face grave. A woman has arrived claiming to be your mother's sister. She carries a medallion that matches your ruined charm. The woman who entered the great hall was tall and silver-haired, with eyes the same unusual shade of violet that Seraphina saw in her own mirror every morning. Tears streamed down her weathered cheeks. Lysara's daughter, she breathed. You have her eyes. We all thought you had died with her. My name is Valoria Nighthollow. I am your mother's elder sister. I am the one who forged the charm that hid you from the hunters who slaughtered our family. The woman fell to her knees. I am the reason you grew up alone and afraid, never knowing what you truly were. And I have spent over 2 decades searching for you, praying you had survived. The story that followed shattered everything Seraphina thought she knew. Her mother, Lysara, had been the youngest princess of the first pack, the last surviving branch of the original royal bloodline. When the purge came, when human kings and jealous lesser wolves united to destroy the true rulers, Lysara had been pregnant and desperate. Valoria had crafted the iron charm using the last of their family's ancient magic, designed to suppress Lysara's wolf and make her appear human long enough to escape. She was supposed to remove it once she reached safety, Valoria said, her voice breaking. But the hunters found her anyway. She must have given the charm to you instead, sacrificed her own protection to save her child. Seraphina felt tears tracking down her cheeks. Her mother had been a princess, a wolf, a queen in her own right, and she had died to keep her daughter safe. But I did not come merely to tell you this, Valoria continued, rising slowly to her feet. I came to warn you. The human king has declared war on all wolf kind. Cassius Morn has been named commander of the royal armies. They march on the northern territories as we speak, with 10,000 soldiers and enough moon silver to poison every river and stream in your domain. Kaelin rose from his throne, his eyes blazing. Then we will meet them in battle. We have united more packs in these 3 months than have stood together in 3 centuries. Numbers alone will not win this war, Valoria said. But there is another way. The crown of the first pack is not merely a symbol, it is a weapon. In your hands, fully awakened and bonded to your mate, it can do what no army can accomplish. What? Seraphina asked, her hand unconsciously moving to her stomach. Call every wolf in existence. Not command, but call. Let them come of their own free will, united by loyalty rather than compulsion. Show the human kingdoms that wolves are not beasts to be hunted, but people to be respected. Seraphina rose from her throne, and as she did, the crown of the first pack materialized above her head. Not summoned by anger or desperation this time, but by choice, by acceptance, by the full embrace of who she had always been meant to become. The golden light filled the great hall, spilling through windows and doorways, reaching out across the mountains and forests and plains. Every wolf in the 5 kingdoms felt it. A call, not a command. An invitation, not an order. Come home. Your queen awaits. Your pack awaits. You are no longer alone. And across the land, from hidden villages and isolated mountains, from cities where they had learned to pass as human and forests, where they had run wild and free, the wolves answered. They came in hundreds, then thousands. They came alone and in packs, young and old, strong and weary. They came because for the first time in 300 years, they had something to believe in. Someone to follow. A queen who had hidden as they had hidden, suffered as they had suffered, and risen despite it all. Talia found Seraphina on the balcony that evening, watching the endless stream of wolves approaching the keep. Mama, are you scared? No, Seraphina said, and meant it. I spent my whole life being scared, hiding, running, pretending to be something I was not. She squeezed her daughter's hand. I am done being afraid. Whatever comes next, we face it together. As a family. As a pack. Kaelin joined them, his arm wrapping around Seraphina's waist as Talia leaned against her other side. 3 hearts beating as one. 2 wolves and a pup, bound by love and fate and the unbreakable ties of pack. The scouts report Cassius's army will reach our borders in 3 days, Kaelin said quietly. Then in 3 days, we show them what happens when you threaten the pack of the first queen. Seraphina's voice rang with quiet certainty. We show them that we are not monsters to be feared, but guardians to be respected. And if they cannot learn that lesson peacefully. She let the crown flare once more above her head, its golden light painting the mountains in shades of fire and honey. Then we teach them the hard way. Below them, 10,000 wolves raised their voices in a howl that shook the very foundations of the world. A promise, a warning, a declaration. The queen of all wolves had risen, and nothing would ever be the same again. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you would like to hear more tales of fated mates, hidden identities, and epic romance, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means the world to me, and I cannot wait to share the next adventure with you.